Vous écoutez Sans détour, le podcast de Génilem avec le soutien de notre parrain Bernet et Associés. Ici, vous trouverez des témoignages authentiques d'entrepreneurs suisses romands, des hommes et des femmes qui, en clé de leur parcours et parfois à répétition, ont choisi de faire les choses autrement. Ils et elles partagent, sans détour, leur expérience entrepreneuriale, leur vision du business et de la vie. Je m'appelle Cyril Delaval, coach au sein de l'association Génilem, et avec mon camarade Laurent Bernet, nous vous proposons d'entrer avec nous, sans a priori, dans le monde fascinant des entrepreneurs. Comment créer une start-up tech à impact quand on sort de l'EHL ? Nous recevons aujourd'hui Anastasia Hofmann, cofondatrice de Kitro. Kitro, c'est quoi ? C'est la start-up qui aide les professionnels de la restauration à réduire leurs déchets alimentaires pour économiser de l'argent et augmenter leur impact. Comment ça marche ? C'est tout simple. Le professionnel installe une caméra au-dessus de sa poubelle organique. Kitro capture et enregistre chaque aliment jeté. Ils sont ensuite identifiés et quantifiés grâce à un logiciel d'intelligence artificielle. Le but est donc d'identifier les zones de gaspillage et mettre en place les actions adaptées pour réduire le gaspillage alimentaire et faire des économies. Et Anastasia a réussi à faire tout ça avec sa cofondatrice Naomi, alors qu'elles sortaient toutes les deux tout juste de l'école hôtelière de Lausanne, sans connaissance particulière de la tech. On parle software, adaptabilité, gestion et développement durable.
Hello, Anastasia.
Hi.
Please introduce yourself.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Anastasia. I'm from the Swiss-German part of Switzerland. Grew up there and then went on and studied at École hôtelière de Lausanne, which is also where I met my co-founder, Naomi McKenzie.
Why did you choose to go to the École hôtelière, in fact?
Actually, I was always very fascinated with different languages, different cultures. I love traveling. And then when I was 18, I got my first job in a restaurant, where they taught me a lot about service, hospitality. And so I kind of started looking into that industry because it would allow me to travel afterwards as well. And that's kind of how I ended up at the EHL.
How was this 4 years in Lausanne?
They were really interesting. I mean, you have this mix between practicals, internship, and also then, of course, business studies. So I feel like while you don't go in depth in all different areas, you actually get a good understanding of business, financials, marketing, strategy, all these kind of things, always tied back to hospitality. And that gives you a good understanding where to go next, basically, once you studied there.
When you start your studies, did you know already what you want to do later? Or it was like just like a big, I don't know, hole?
When I started the studies, I didn't have a specific goal in mind. I knew I wanted to be able to work wherever I want to travel to. So kind of like have the opportunity to kind of decide from one day to the next I want to move to Asia or Canada or whatnot. So I didn't go in there knowing I want to be a GM of this hotel chain. That was not the goal. And it also didn't turn out like this, right, at the end.
And can you tell us, what do you do now?
So now I've been working in a startup called Kitro for the past years that I founded together with my co-founder, Naomi, a good friend of mine as well.
And you met at École hôtelière, right?
Exactly.
Can you explain us a little bit more about this?
Yes, so it's called Kitro, and we are focusing on food waste management for the food service industry. So our customers are really bigger hotel groups and canteen chains and so on. So we really sell our product to the food service industry. And essentially what we do, we provide them with a device that automatically measures and monitors their food waste. And then we use AI to identify what exactly they've wasted. And at the end, they see an analysis of their data, of their food waste, and we support them by giving them advice based on this data, basically. So they can optimize their food processes or their, let's say, service processes and reduce food waste.
How did you get the idea of the software? If we can call it software, I don't know exactly
It's actually
if it's a software or not.
It's a hardware and a software. So there is a scale, you put your bin on top, and then there's a camera on top and it takes pictures. And then the software is really the algorithms, but also the online dashboard where customers see their data. So it's a bit of both. How we got the idea, so there's not one short answer, but I think Naomi and I both grew up in environments where kind of it was important to not waste food. So at home, how we grew up. And then when you start working in the industry, you just really, at the beginning at least, we both were very shocked by how much gets thrown out every day. And I guess it's part of the job, but also you kind of become blind to it and get used to it. And so that was kind of the starting point where it started for me when I did my first internship in a hotel, and I was after a banquet just throwing away a lot of good food. Naomi had a similar moment where she was working in the kitchen as well for half a year in Italy, and it was a luxury hotel resort, and so she had a similar kind of already first experience with food waste, let's say. And at the end, we both did an internship in Miami together, where we would also plan these fancy events. And at the end of the day, there was so much food left over. And I think the States are also very well known for big portion sizes. And yeah, it just goes all to waste. And on our way home from our workplace, we would always pass by a lot of homeless people. And so this contrast was kind of shocking. And we started talking about this. And at the end of our studies at EHL, we really said, okay, actually we need to start measuring, because we tried to find data on food waste and couldn't. And so we said, let's try to measure food waste, because only when we measure it, we can actually optimize it. And that's kind of how it started.
And what was the first prototype, or what was the first things that you did for Kitro?
Yeah, so
because you are not tech.
No, so they don't teach you that at EHL, how to code or program. So what we did then, what we knew best, is how to make a PowerPoint presentation. So we started by making like a one-pager of our idea. And since we couldn't build it, or even we didn't even know if it could work to measure food waste in a fully automated way, we just kind of went and talked to potential customers. And so there it's really where the network of EHL played a big role, because we realized, okay, now all these other kind of colleagues of ours who studied with us, they all ended up in different restaurants or hotel chains or so. And so we got first meetings, and we kind of validated the idea just with a piece of paper initially. And then one person suddenly said, hey, I want to try this. I want to measure my food waste. And then we were like, oh, now we have to build it.
And how did you do?
We were very lucky, I think. We went on a online platform. I think it doesn't exist anymore, but from ETH Zurich. And we found 3 bachelor students who wanted to build an association. And this association still exists. It's called Unicorn Labs. And basically, they wanted to build this, building MVPs for startups. And we were like, cool, we can be your first customer. And maybe you build us the first MVP, and then we can also promote you in the startup scene. And so it was actually a nice partnership. And they built our first prototype that we then installed a few months later at this customer's place.
And between the PowerPoint and the first installation you made to your first clients, how long did it take?
So that was roughly half a year.
Quite quick, in fact.
Yeah, but we also didn't really we graduated EHL, and then we already knew we wanted to continue working on the idea, and got some kind of side jobs that we knew we won't stay too long or get tempted to stay too long, and worked on the side on doing more research and looking for grants, and did the business part at least of what we could do. And then, together with the students, we then brainstormed how we could actually build it.
And between the first prototype you made and the one you used today, there's a huge difference.
Yes. Yes.
Please give us a bit of the time frame when you finish school, when you start the Kitro, and then you have the first clients, maybe.
We graduated in 2016 in summer, and then by then we knew we wanted to continue working on Kitro. Did some customer validation, and then the first installation of the first prototype was in April 2017. And then we only founded the company actually in November 2017. So there was the whole summer still where we kind of continued measuring, learning, applying to competitions, trying to get money so we could actually incorporate the company.
So, and this first client or the first customer, I don't know, is it still a client to you?
No, not anymore.
Not anymore?
No. It's actually funny because that first client was it was Holy Cow in Winterthur. So it was kind of a fast food concept, for those that don't know Holy Cow. And that is not really our customers segment anymore. So it was interesting because we also learned that maybe that is not the right segment for us. And we realized more and more that actually bigger properties would make more sense.
What kind of pain or problem do you resolve for your client?
So our customers, they actually face a lot of different challenges, right? So low margins, also lack of staff is a big one, high turnover of staff. And this is essentially, so they have high costs, high food costs, they're also rising. This essentially leads to them losing kind of an overview of their food cost and also what ends up in their bin. But actually many customers, they try to push down supplier prices to save money, right? But actually if you looked at your food waste, you could save a lot more with like small actions. And so what we help them is giving this visibility into their bin so they can reduce their cost and operate more efficiently. And as a second point, maybe now that also kind of food waste regulations are on the rise, also many companies now, bigger groups who are customers, they have these sustainable goals, so sustainability goals that they need to also or want to meet. And for that, they need also numbers. And at the end, measuring food waste gives you a very clear number that you can also at least translate into CO2 emissions if needed. And so we help them also with impact reporting in that sense.
To understand maybe a little bit more how efficient is your solution is, at the end of the day, the customers, he knows that he wastes 1 kilos of I don't know, apple or something like this. And what do we do then with these figures?
Now, this is a good point. So food waste can come from different sources. So with the numbers on the dashboard, we first look, is it the waste mainly coming from overproduction or is it mainly coming from plate waste? And once you figure that out, then you can say, okay, well, what do we want to focus on? And let's say these apples, now I don't know if they're all coming from plates, they're cut, or they come back as kind of like from customers at the end. Then you can go and look into, okay, are our menus, do we need to optimize our menus? Is the portion too big, or is our recipe not good, or is the supplier maybe the quality of the food an issue? So you kind of like dive a bit deeper into each ingredient and see how you could reduce that. So I can give a really, really practical example, but that one is from EHL. And basically there they saw that there's a lot of cut bread in their waste, and it came back from plates from students. And the bread was free in this cafeteria. And what they did then is moving the bread basket from after the checkout to before the checkout. It was still free of charge, but the students felt a bit more observed in taking bread on their plate. And instead of taking 4 pieces, they maybe took only 2. And that led to a reduction of 70% of the bread waste within this tiny, like it was a tiny action that had such a big impact.
Are you giving like reporting every day, week, month, or it depends from the clients? How does it work?
So customers, they can log into their dashboard whenever they have time. So it's not like we give a report. They can really log in whenever. The data is not processed kind of daily. So we allow a few days of processing time. If you throw something away today, you don't see it later today on the dashboard. It takes a while because we also need to ensure that the ingredients, the quality, that it's there. But customers then, they log in probably like once a week, depends a bit on also their time allocation, and look at the data there. And then what we also offer is a service. So every quarter, they definitely have at minimum 1 call with us where we go through the data. We set different goals. We review the data, review what were the goals, what was achieved, and let's set new goals. So we support them on that journey.
As I understand, you have a business model with their hardware, software, but also services. How do you price that, and what's the business model for the clients? What does he pay?
So the clients, it's actually a SaaS business model. So we rent out the device. They don't buy it usually. And then they pay a monthly fee, and that includes everything. So the analysis, the rental, the service as well, the consulting, and so on. And we have 2 different software packages. One is the reduce model, where they get a lot of support. And then once they've worked with us for a few years, or even 1 or 2 years, and they realize, okay, we have focused a lot on food waste, have seen good reductions, and now we just want to monitor, then there's a cheaper tier they can go into to just monitor food waste, so report. That's the name of the package. And they get the data, but they don't get support anymore.
Is it easy to sell?
You would think so, because it's a win-win situation, and customers, they can save money. They do something good for the environment. So, and at the end of the day, most of them, they do have a positive ROI within the first few months, because they, on average, save more than 30% of their avoidable food waste within 4 months of measuring with us. So that's quite a lot when you calculate it into their costs. it's not super easy to sell. And I think one reason is that, first of all, it's kind of a change as well that you sell to them, right? So you do need someone to take charge internally at the customer's place to manage the project. And since they are quite overworked and it is such a busy environment, and usually it's the executive chef that would take this role, you actually have to also make sure that this person has the capacity to do so and sit together, look at the data. And that's not always easy because it drives a change in also their environment, in their kitchen processes.
And who does the sell in your company?
We have set up the sales in a way that our food waste consultants, who also give obviously consulting and guide the customer through the journey, they also sell. So we don't have like a specific sales team and then a specific customer success team. We kind of merged those together because when Benno, our chief commercial officer, joined in 2022, he actually had this idea to combine these because we realized that once you've accompanied the customer through the whole journey, you are way better at selling the product and the service to new customers. So that's how we set it up.
Today, Kitro is about how many people, and do you serve only clients in Switzerland, or did you expand to Europe or Asia, or I don't know?
Yeah, so we're a team of around 20 people right now. Most of our customers are still in Switzerland, but we have started to expand really globally, actually. The focus was more the DACH region, so we have roughly 15% of all our active devices in Germany right now. But then we really have some devices, I think around 5% are in the US now, and we also have in the Middle East quite a growing interest. And this is really what we noticed is that US as well as Middle East, the countries are becoming quite aware of food waste, or the regions, and are also from governments. It's being quite pushed. And so what our goal is really to grow internationally with groups. And that works quite well because if you work with a group such as, now we're one of the preferred partners of aide EMEA. So then, of course, this region is also being pushed to do something around food waste. And they're doing a great job in making it even mandatory for most of their properties now as of a certain size to measure food waste. And the same with Four Seasons, for example.
If we go back in 2017, when you just launched Kitro, what did you have to learn to be that successful today?
A lot. I think, if you come out of university, you're usually, you've maybe heard of certain things about entrepreneurship in some kind of strategy class or something, or in an elective in my case. So we definitely had to learn a lot how it works, even quite a lot of legal terms, and also like corporate governance, how it is to run a AG or a SA. So that is definitely a big part. And also funding rounds, how these come together, talking to investors, negotiating, and then of course at the end building a high-performing team, setting in place scalable processes. So I think there's lots to learn, which makes this very interesting as a journey for sure.
So what was the main difficulties that you have faced?
Difficult to choose one because we had definitely our fair share of difficulties, and I think you can differentiate between like externally, or let's say external difficulties that we couldn't really influence and they came our way, such as COVID and the industry shutting down, or then also internally when you grow or when you also have a lack of knowledge in certain areas. Like I think the first one was a very obvious one. We both founders were non-tech and we needed to hire a CTO. And that was the first difficulty, because how do you find this person that you can fully trust, but you don't necessarily know what skill set they need to be equipped with? And so that definitely took way longer than we would have hoped for. I think I mentioned before, we founded the company in November 2017, and that's also when our CTO started around that time. But we've been looking for over half a year for the right person, and we met lots of people. And so that was definitely the first one that we had to overcome.
And how did you find it?
Online. Yeah. But then I think the learnings here as well, like with HR, we were quite desperate at that point as well to find someone. And the person was a perfect fit in terms of skill sets, it seemed, but not such a great fit in terms of values for the company. And that's something that came out a bit later. And also he only stayed for I think around 6 months, and then we had to find someone new because it didn't fit on a kind of organizational culture level. And so that is definitely one big learning, is when you are pushed to fill a position that you stress it too much, and then you end up hiring someone that doesn't fit, is like fully fit the company culture, or even doesn't bring the skill set that they need. And so that is a mistake we've repeated a few more times, because we were pushed to hire someone else then, and there's always this like stress in a startup. But I think with hiring and recruitment, you just really need to take your time. And so this is something we're really focused now. Is like, even if we absolutely need right now a head of software, we are not like compromising on the candidates, and really wait for the right person to find that one.
Are you hiring yourself?
So my co-founder Naomi, she's running the HR department, so she's the one trying to find the head of software right now.
Do you already know where Kitro will be in 5 years? Do you imagine? What do you imagine?
I definitely don't know where we will be in 5 years, because that's hard to know. I think now we're really on a good trajectory, and kind of focused on growth, on profitability, like a nice balance we found for ourselves. And so I would hope that in 5 years from now, we just kind of like continue the path we're on, like doubling every year. That is kind of the goal right now, and being present in the big groups, and globally present as well, of course.
You mentioned before relationship with investors. That means that you made some raising. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, we did some fundraising rounds, different formats. So the first funds we've received were actually from Incubator, Climate Kick, and then also later the acceleration program they offered. So we've applied to different grants, prizes, and so on. And then the fundraising with investors, we did a pre-seed round in 2018, and then our seed round last year. So it's quite a big a gap between. We had some convertible notes in between. Exactly. And then also work together with the technology fund from Switzerland. They give a loan guarantee for climate startups, which is quite a cool tool as well.
Is it easy to raise this money?
Difficult question. I think the first round was easier than the second one, for sure. But I mean, the whole fundraising environment and in general, the global situation has changed drastically. So I think in 2018, when we did our first round, there was still this kind of like bubble where people had really good valuations. There was money. It was pre-COVID, so it's very different than starting to raise funds in 2022 even, or 2021, trying to raise more when everyone is scared of a recession, and then suddenly inflation and a war, and so very different environments. The second round was for us quite hard to raise because our metrics were of course not there where they should have been after existing for 5 years, but everyone understood it was COVID, but everyone said, oh, other people perform better. So that was a bit of a difficult situation to go through.
And how do you explain that at the end you succeeded in this raising fund?
I think persistency, or how do you say this? Yeah, persistent, or we just kind of continued and tried to adjust our cash spent accordingly. So we really had to react quite harshly at some point when we realized, okay, this is not going to work out. We won't close this round before the end of the year. And we had to let go of really talented, cool people. All at once, we had to let go of 7 people. It was quite a big cut. But we realized we had to do it now. Otherwise, the company will be bankrupt within a few months, right? So, and then we kept an eye on cash and just kind of like tried to give it our all to make that funding round happen.
Did somebody help you in this second round?
I mean, we got quite some help from our existing investors who made introductions, who supported us there, and also, of course, the whole team helped. That's while I was kind of leading the round in the sense that I was doing the investor intros, but at the end, then Naomi always came to also, of course, to the meetings. She also prepared her part of the slides, so it was a whole team effort. And then, of course, if you look at it, the other team members, they just continued actually pushing and continued delivering and reaching the targets while this was going on, which is also quite difficult for the team if suddenly half your team is gone. You just continue and deliver. That was very impressive to see and very encouraging as well.
Are you the kind of person who celebrates success with the team?
Yes, so we do these monthly milestone meetings where the whole team comes together, and then every department gets a few minutes where they can present the milestones of the month, what they've achieved, some kind of highlight, lowlight, and also what they're focusing on next month. And that is usually where also some people that work remotely, they come to Switzerland, to the office, and we usually do then some team outing afterwards and kind of celebrate also milestones. So we've gotten a lot better to celebrate these milestones.
Can you see any effect on the teams, on the motivation or on the performance of them?
I think they really enjoy these meetings, yes. I don't know how it would be, but like people do mention they like that we come together and they get to meet also people that, work remotely, that they come and get to meet the whole team. I think, it's usually quite a positive event.
I have this question from the beginning, but how did you choose the name Kitro and what does it mean?
Kitro, it stands for Kitchen Hero. And so that's kind of how we chose it. We wanted something short, something that sounds a bit techy, that can be pronounced in many languages. We always call it Kitro. And now everyone says Kitro, but that's fine. And so that's what it stands for.
What can we wish you for the rest of the year and for the next decade?
I think that it just continues how it is. It's going really well right now, so it's quite exciting. Looking forward to the next quarters and the next years.
And it seems that you said at the beginning of our discussion that you love to travel. That if you expand, you will travel a lot, right?
We've built up Kitro, so we can just ship the devices there. We don't actually have to go there. It's very easy for them to remotely set it up and install it, so we don't ever have to go. But we often make the jokes like now we have a property in Hawaii, for example, so everyone's like, oh, I think I have to go to visit them, But definitely traveling is definitely still happening, but more like conferences. Exactly.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Voilà, nous sommes arrivés au terme de cette rencontre avec Anastasia, qui nous a raconté comment et pourquoi elle s'est attaquée au gaspillage alimentaire avec sa cofondatrice Noémie dans cette industrie de la food services. Anastasia souligne l'importance de commencer par mesurer le gaspillage alimentaire avant de chercher à l'optimiser ou à le réduire. Et j'ai particulièrement aimé écouter Anastasia nous raconter comment elle est allée valider son marché avant même de développer une solution technique en allant parler au maximum d'acteurs de l'industrie pour confirmer que le gaspillage alimentaire était ou n'était pas un problème significatif. Et c'est d'autant plus intéressant que cette démarche va également leur amener leur premier client qui voulait mesurer activement son propre gaspillage. Comme quoi, commencer un projet entrepreneurial par une bonne étude de marché, ça fait toujours du sens. Et enfin, je retiens ce défi que la plupart des startups rencontrent quand elles n'ont pas les compétences tech à l'interne, à savoir le recrutement d'une ou d'un CTO de confiance, alors que soi-même, on ne comprend pas forcément tous les enjeux, ni chaque détail technique. Pour ce faire, il est primordial de ne pas faire de compromis sur les valeurs et la vision de l'entreprise lors de ce recrutement initial, et donc de les énoncer et de les partager dès le début. C'est évidemment également vrai pour les prochains recrutements. Et avant de conclure, si vous avez aimé cet épisode, ce qui devrait être le cas étant donné que vous l'avez écouté jusqu'au bout, alors qu'il était en anglais, n'hésitez pas à le partager à 2 de vos amis qui pourraient avoir un intérêt. Et si vous voulez rester informé de l'entrepreneuriat dans les cantons de Genève et Vaud, n'hésitez pas à vous abonner à la newsletter mensuelle de Génilem via notre site internet genilem.ch.